Hello. Hello, dear colleagues, dear participants, dear friends from across Europe and beyond, because also participants from the States, from America, from Asia and Africa are with us this morning. Welcome to all of you. Welcome at this conference organized by EASPD in close cooperation with LADAPT. Our topic is the road to employment for persons with a disability. Today, more than 1,000 of you registered through this platform and through Facebook. So on behalf of my organization, EASPD, a European network of support services for persons with disabilities, I would like to welcome you. I am Luc Zelderlo, Secretary General of EASPD. Welcome, dear colleagues, at this policy panel. We have four top-class speakers here with us for the debate this morning. But first, we planned to be together in Paris with all of you. Corona made it impossible to be together. Still, let's go to the City of Light. So, dear friends, welcome to Paris. Before starting, I have to share with you some housekeeping information. You can activate subtitles by clicking on the button Closed Caption on the right of the middle bar, and then you go to Show Subtitles. That's for those that would like to follow what we say also in writing. We also hope to facilitate participation for people having hearing problems. Language interpretation is available in French and in Croatian. So you can activate this by clicking on the button Interpretation on the right of the bar at the bottom of your screen. And there you can choose the language. Sorry for our friends that want to follow in Croatian, but they will have to click the Spanish flag. We had to hide the Croatian interpretation under the Spanish flag. That is just for technical reasons. Let's make this, although it is difficult with 1,000 participants, of course, but let's make this as interactive as possible. You can use the chat box to give general impressions or to launch a question, but also feel free to use the Q&A button if you have a question. And that button, again, is in the bar at the bottom of your screen. The EASPD team will pick up your questions and we will bring them to the speakers. To the speakers, I have to remind them that they have to mute their microphone when they are not speaking. Some of you that were with us also yesterday might have seen that there also was this mysterious closed workshop on the program. Yes, indeed, yesterday we had an intensive discussion with partner organizations. We had a discussion with EUS, EPR, Workability International, NC and EDF, the European network of DPOs. And I can share with you some very good news. We agreed amongst these 7 organizations that we will join forces and develop action plans and actions to promote employment of persons with a disability across the European continent. For sure, you will hear more about that later on. EASPD is also working on a manifesto, and that manifesto will be used to feed into the debate that we are having at European Union level now for the future, for the new European disability strategy. And I'm sure that our first speaker, Madame Emmanuelle Grange, who is head of the Disability and Inclusion Unit, will talk about this future disability strategy as far as it is allowed for her to give information on that now. This manifesto will be made available to all participants after the conference, because we want to enrich it with your input of the today's debate. Let's now start. And first I would like to introduce our panel very briefly to you. Our first speaker is, as I said already, Emmanuelle Grange. She represents the European Commission. She is the head of the Disability and Inclusion Unit. Our second speaker is Mr. Patrick Gohet, who is Deputy Ombudsman of France, working on the fight against discrimination in the country, with, of course, a very strong interest in fighting discrimination against persons with disability and support needs. Our third speaker, Caroline Mancel, is Deputy Director General of Actiris, the Belgian public employment service, and she represents here ENPES, the European Network of Public Employment Services, a very important partner for the work we are doing together. And last but not least, we have Emmanuel Constans, good friend of all of us. He is president of LADAPT, the organization with whom we are co-organizing this event. If you have questions, please don't wait too long, dear participants. Provide your questions through the Q&A box so that we can bring them to our speakers. And you can launch your questions in both French and English. For other languages, you have to apologize us. It is not always possible to quickly translate the question. So if possible, please use English or French. Without further ado, I would like to give the floor now to Emmanuelle Grange, head of the Disability and Inclusion Unit. Emmanuelle, you have 8 minutes for your contribution to this panel debate, and afterwards we might come back to you with more specific questions. Emmanuelle, we're all yours.
Thanks a lot, Luc. I'm trying, more or less connected well, so it seems to be working. Tout d'abord, bonjour à tous. Few words in French, if I may. Je tiens à remercier EASPD pour avoir organisé ce séminaire sur ce sujet aussi important que l'emploi des personnes handicapées. Et je regrette évidemment de ne pas pouvoir vous voir tous en personne et surtout de ne pas être à Paris pour partager cet événement avec vous. Nevertheless, I will do my best to stick to the 8 minutes and to give you an overview of what we have done and what we are in the process of doing for the next strategy. It is indeed a very important topic for persons with disabilities and for the European Commission in the policy we are implementing in the area of the rights of persons with disabilities at the EU level. It's essential for daily life. It's essential in terms of autonomy, of economic security of persons with disabilities. And it's also an important contribution to the economic and social life of the member states. Of course, we will not start from scratch in this area, because in the current European Disability Strategy, which is ending at the end of this year, we already had employment as a core topic, core area of actions scheduled in our strategy as of 2010, and we had many activities, actions, and which were scheduled. Not all of them worked or gave the results we were expecting from them, but nevertheless, we had a two-way approach. One which was using the EU legislation to provide protection from discrimination in the employment area. And we also tried to implement an active policy to combat discrimination and promote equal opportunities in EU policies, notably in the employment side. From the evaluation that we have launched and that is now being concluded, we could see that some aspects have been well taken into account, notably the increase of knowledge of employment situation of persons with disability, the identification of challenges and proposal for remedies. Where we did not do so well was rather on the preparation of the elaboration of disability indicators. That was not so convincing, to say the least. We also did not work enough, certainly with the social partners at the EU level. And we did this certainly has to be improved. But we also did a lot in terms of implementation, follow-up of the implementation in the member states of the Directive 2078 about equal access to employment. And we also did a lot, especially this last year, with awareness raising. And thanks also to the support of EASPD and EDF, we did, I think, a quite interesting awareness raising campaign on employment and equal access to employment on all grounds of discrimination scheduled by the legislation in place, but with specific actions in terms of seminars with the employers in the area of reasonable accommodation. So I think we did well on that, but we also enjoyed very good support from our usual suspects, I would say, our stakeholders, notably EASPD and EDF. So for the future, as you said, Luc, I cannot say exactly what we are going to do because it's still under discussion with our hierarchy, with our commissioner, Mrs. Elena Dali, who is deeply involved in this discussion and very determined to put forward an ambitious European disability strategy for the next 10 years. But as you can understand, it's still internal. However, it is very clear that we have a strong basis for keep on working on employment for persons with disabilities. It is without, I'm not sharing a secret, it's obvious that employment will remain a core topic in the next strategy. And I think that the fact that our unit is well placed in the Directorate General dealing with employment and social affairs shows the importance that the EU attaches to the employment of persons with disabilities. And but the tools we have are quite new tools, the legal basis, the political input also. We have very numerous. We have the Charter, of course, Article 21 and 20. We have the Directive 2078 on non-discrimination, which is for the moment also subjected to an assessment, and there will be a report next year about its implementation. We have the Directive 2014-24 on public procurement, which is quite important in this area. We have also the Directive on the work-life balance recently adopted last year. We also have the support in terms of state aid of the General Block Exemption Regulation, which is extremely useful for us in this area. And of course, we also have to implement the accessibility legislation, which has an impact in the daily work, reasonable accommodation at work, etc., by providing better accessibility to numerous tools. We have also the European Pillar to support us. And I'm not referring only to the Principle 17 about the inclusion of people with disabilities, but the principles related to equal opportunities, active support to employment, secure and adaptable employment, work-life balance, healthy, safe and well-adapted work environment and data protection, Principle 10, for example. We have the SDGs, And we have the recommendations of the UN committee, which shows quite well the way also for us. And notably, the committee put the stress on the measures to how to measure the employment of persons with disability and to increase the employment rate in the open labor market, open, not shelters, and reasonable accommodation and accessibility. Very strong, very clear points to show the direction we are supposed to take. We also have resolutions from the Parliament. One is still under the process of adoptions, but we had reports before that, which were presented and with strong focuses on employment. And I would say also that we have now something important in front of us, how to take into account the COVID crisis recovery and to translate it in the strategy. That's there again, not a secret. We will use, of course, the results of the evaluation. So there will be a staff working document presented about the evaluation of the current strategy before the summer. We plan to discuss with the stakeholders, the NGOs, the EP, member states during the autumn. Normally, if everything goes well, we will have the EASPD conference, but this remains to be organized and seen in the context of the consequences of the COVID crisis. And we hope to go to the college with a new strategy in the first quarter of 2021. And as I said, and as our Commissioner, Mrs. Deli, insisted on, we really plan to propose an ambitious strategy and with ambitious objectives in the employment area. This is, I think I have been a little bit far over my 8 minutes, but this is it on my side. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, and thank you for the very nice and fruitful cooperation that we enjoyed over the last few years and will enjoy, I'm sure, also in the future. If there are questions to you, then we will come back to them later on. As we have problems with connecting with Patrick Gohet, we move to our third speaker immediately. So I would like to introduce to you now Caroline Mancel. She represents here the European Network of Public Employment Services. That is a European corporation of public employment agencies from across the European Union. And since many years, we work closely together with NPES. Caroline, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. I will share my PowerPoint with you. I hope this works all right. Just a minute. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. Well, good morning to you all. As Lux just said, I represent Johannes Kopf, who is the chair of the European Network of Public Employment Services, abbreviated PES network. And I am the Deputy Director General of Actiris, which is the public employment service of the Brussels Capital Region in Belgium. And so welcome from Brussels. Actiris works with a significant number of partners for matching labor supply and demand, said in a more simple way, for matching job seekers with job offers. And we are responsible for the implementation of labor market policies and programs, and not in the least, the integration of people with a disability. A few words about the PES network. It was created by a European decision of the European Parliament and Council in 2014, and it comprises all EU member states, many of whom are present today, but also Norway, Iceland, and the European Commission, which also has a secretariat. And its objective is to reinforce the capacity of the public employment services to better serve European citizens on the labor market. And we do this through benchmarking, between the different PES. We call this bench learning because we really learn from one another, and a series of mutual learning activities. We also mutually organize a work program which we follow. And so we thereby play a major role in fostering inclusive employment, supporting the employability of all job seekers. And by all job seekers, I also mean people with disabilities, because they face more difficulty in finding employment and are therefore more likely to become long-term unemployed or inactive. And so our PES network believes that this highly diverse group, the group of job seekers with disabilities, should receive particular support, particular attention. And we want to move away from talking about target groups, because we're talking about individuals, and job seekers with disabilities really highly need individualized support. Because there is no one size fits all solution. We are convinced that all job seekers, every one of them, without exception, has specific abilities, talents, and skills, and finding out those assets, what people can do, compared to identifying, rather than identifying their shortcomings, what people cannot do, is essential, even more so with job seekers with a disability. Because as I said before, they often need additional personal support and the coordinated provision of employment services. We cannot do this alone. And as you can read on the slide, the most important interventions of the PES are career counseling, face-to-face employment counseling, training, employment incentives, and that includes subsidies, workplace adaptation, etc. The PES cannot tackle those challenges alone. As I said, we need a coordinated approach, coordinated help of specific services, and therefore partnerships are key. For example, with the public health institutions, to help get people back into employment after having spent a period on health leave, but with all kinds of organizations and also with employers. I repeat, it's essential to meet the needs of individual job seekers and of their employers. And that is why we signed a joint declaration between the PES network and EASPD and EUs a few years ago in order to foster cooperation possibilities at national level between organizations aiming at enhancing employment opportunities for people with disabilities and health issues. And besides this declaration, the PES network keeps on exchanging and implementing an approach of evidence-based learning. And we do have a very good database of good practices. We also call it our knowledge center. You can find the way of getting there. You go to the website, the Commission website, DG Employment, and then the PES, look for PES Knowledge Center. You have the link here. So we have many examples of good practices, and I will point out 3 of them on the subject of today, starting with an example in Sweden, where the employer of workers with disabilities may be entitled to a wage subsidy of up to 80% of wage, depending on the degree of disability, for a maximum of 4 years. We should do this in every single country. The second example is a very funny one, but it works in the Netherlands. It's called Exercise as a Warm-up for Integration. And it consists in reactivating people with a lengthy occupational disability through physical exercise. And it is intended, this program, to improve the well-being, the daily routines, the social networks, and the chances in the labor market. And it turns out to work because the evaluation shows that chances of getting a paid job increased by 300% for those who participated in the program compared to those who didn't. And my third and last example is in Malta. It's about job carving. And Mr. Hayden Hammersley of the EDF yesterday already talked about this. It allows for people for constructing a new job, a tailor-made and job adjusted to the tasks that an employee with a disability can really fulfill. And very often it consists of tasks of different jobs within the company.
Can you wrap up, please?
Yes, I get to my last slide. And this is about the contribution of the PES network to the next European Disability Strategy. I will personally make sure that this topic is put higher up on the agenda of the PES network, while continuing, of course, our strategic exchange between members and organizing more learning activities about this topic. We can also contribute with the expertise of our members, and we would be very happy to participate in the consultation process as a strategic partner.
Thank you.
And the network can support the disability strategy with concrete ideas, as I said earlier, about the collaboration of employers, to how to raise awareness, to create a partnership network, etc. And a closer cooperation between member organizations of the PES work and the EASPD on national level could also be a start to create a setting for these social innovations. And I will wrap up here. We PES will continue working on improving our approaches to fight against discrimination, raise awareness of employers, and enhance individual support and inclusive measures towards people with disabilities. These are major challenges, especially now, but it will benefit us all to make our workplaces more inclusive and to build a Europe in which everyone has the means to contribute to society and the labor market. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Caroline, for your very encouraging words. Indeed, as a European network representing over 17,000 organizations, we really would like to strengthen the cooperation between both our structures, because I really think that, as already said by Emmanuel Grange as well, it is through cooperation that we will manage to deal with the difficulties that we face when supporting persons with a disability on their way to the labor market. Thank you also for sharing these models of good practice with us. For the participants, I would like to remind them that also on the EASPD website you can find models of good practice. We just had a little competition. An awarding was organized. We selected 4 models of good practice, and later on today you can learn more about these models of good practice after this plenary session. Our next speaker is the president of LADAPT. He is active in the sector since many years, and it's together with LADAPT that we organized this conference. Dear Emmanuel, Constans, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Luc. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, and dear panelists, it's a great pleasure for me to participate in this panel about employment in the conference Road to Employment. Je vais continuer en français et je voudrais évoquer plusieurs points dans mon intervention. au nom de l'ADAPT. L'ADAPT qui est une association qui travaille pour l'insertion sociale et professionnelle des personnes handicapées depuis 90 ans. Et c'est vrai que nous avons une bonne expérience de terrain concrète dans nos établissements, plus de 100 établissements, 3000 salariés et 20 000 personnes en situation de handicap que nous accueillons, que nous accompagnons tout au long de leur carrière et surtout de leur épanouissement, à la fois dans le domaine de l'emploi, bien sûr, de la formation, de l'emploi, mais aussi dans le domaine culturel, sportif, l'inclusion des personnes handicapées. C'est quelque chose, c'est un programme très vaste et qui ne peut pas être limité, mais c'est vrai que le travail, l'emploi est pour nous quelque chose de tout à fait central pour la pleine citoyenneté des personnes handicapées. Je voudrais évoquer quelques points rapidement compte tenu du délai. D'abord, une stratégie européenne en matière de handicap, c'est très important que cette stratégie elle ait un volet emploi qui soit important et central. Et j'ai bien noté la formule d'Emmanuel Grange qui a dit « a core topic », donc quelque chose vraiment au cœur de l'action en faveur des personnes en situation de handicap, le travail, l'emploi. Et je crois que là, c'est quelque chose de très important de garder cet objectif avec, bien sûr, c'est très ambitieux, il faut que ce soit clair, il faut bien sûr qu'il y ait des éléments de mesure et d'évaluation, comme l'a dit également Emmanuel Grange, mais sur cette stratégie européenne, je voudrais dire une chose importante, c'est la notion de la concertation pour préparer cette stratégie. Je crois qu'il y a là tout un aspect de consultation qui est absolument fondamental. C'est quelque chose dont nous avons l'expérience à l'ADAPT, puisque tous les 5 ans, nous avons un projet, nous actualisons, nous rénovons notre projet associatif. Et pour cela, nous menons des consultations internes au sein de tous nos établissements avec nos professionnels, nos bénévoles, mais aussi avec des associations extérieures, des associations citoyennes. Et ceci dure 9 mois à 1 an de consultation pour avoir un projet solide et porté par tous. Donc, je voudrais que dans le manifeste de l'EASPD, on insiste beaucoup sur cette notion de consultation et de concertation avec les partenaires sociaux, bien entendu, et ce qu'a dit Caroline Mancel est extrêmement important également, et j'ai beaucoup apprécié son intervention, mais aussi avec les associations. Ce sont les associations gestionnaires, militantes, qui ont vraiment le contact dans tous les secteurs du handicap. Et je souhaiterais qu'au niveau européen, le ASPD bien sûr en premier lieu, mais aussi les associations nationales puissent être associées à cette consultation. Le deuxième point que je voudrais évoquer, toujours sur la stratégie européenne, c'est qu'il est important, notamment dans le manifeste de l'ASPD, que l'on puisse insister sur l'urgence de l'emploi des personnes handicapées dans la situation d'aujourd'hui et de demain, dans les mois qui viennent. Voilà, parce que comme je l'ai dit en ouvrant cette conférence, il y a une véritable urgence économique et sociale et à la suite du coronavirus. Et il ne faudrait pas vraiment que tous les efforts menés dans différents pays, notamment en France, pour l'inclusion des personnes en situation de handicap dans l'emploi, menés au cours des dernières années, que tous ces efforts soient réduits à néant avec des licenciements massifs qui commenceraient par les personnes handicapées. Ça, nous n'en voulons pas. Et il faut là-dessus que nous soyons tous à l'EASPD et ailleurs vraiment à la pointe du combat. Je crois que pour cela, ça serait intéressant si la Commission pouvait peut-être envisager un programme d'urgence, par exemple, pour débuter au début de la période de la nouvelle stratégie, un programme d'urgence, par exemple en 2021, qui permettrait de sauver l'emploi des personnes handicapées avec des mesures exceptionnelles. L'AGFIP nous a annoncé hier qu'elle avait fait un programme exceptionnel de 23 millions liés au coronavirus pour l'emploi et des personnes en situation de handicap. C'est un bon exemple. Je crois qu'il faut voudrais qu'il puisse être développé ailleurs. En ce qui concerne les autres priorités stratégiques pour l'emploi des personnes handicapées, qui pourraient être mises en exergue, mises vraiment en avant par le manifeste de l'EASPD, je voudrais en citer rapidement quelques-unes. Bien sûr, l'idée, par exemple, d'un objectif quantitatif, et ça serait très important pour la stratégie européenne à 10 ans, par exemple, d'avoir un objectif quantitatif de réduire, par exemple, de 50% le chômage des personnes handicapées. 50%, et je ne dis pas en 10 ans, je suis plus ambitieux, je crois qu'il faudrait 50% en 5 ans. Ça serait déjà, à mon avis, c'est tout à fait accessible comme objectif, et cela permettrait d'avoir un système d'évaluation, de suivi, qu'est-ce qui marche, qu'est-ce qui ne marche pas. Bien sûr, dans ces priorités stratégiques, il y a l'emploi direct en milieu ordinaire qui est central, vraiment cet emploi direct. Il y a aussi bien sûr l'emploi protégé dans un certain nombre de cas, mais il faut se centrer, à mon avis, sur le recrutement et l'emploi direct. Je crois que le manifeste a prévu de parler aussi, ça a été travaillé, la notion du développement des nouvelles technologies au service des personnes handicapées. L'informatique est vraiment quelque chose de très important pour vraiment compenser le handicap, et notamment en matière de formation et d'emploi. C'est quelque chose de très important. Un point qui a beaucoup été travaillé au niveau européen, c'est la question de l'emploi accompagné. Et dans le cadre de la Semaine européenne pour l'emploi des personnes handicapées, nous avons vraiment en France pris l'exemple de ce qui se fait en Irlande, en Allemagne, en Belgique. L'emploi accompagné, supported employment, est quelque chose de très important. Je crois qu'il faudrait qu'il soit mentionné dans le manifeste parce que c'est adapté, on rassure la personne handicapée, on rassure l'employeur, on rassure les collègues de travail. Et avec l'emploi accompagné, je pense aussi à l'apprentissage accompagné. L'apprentissage accompagné, les formations en alternance, c'est ce qui permet à beaucoup de personnes handicapées, mais aussi à des personnes qui sont un peu des publics vulnérables, de pouvoir accéder à l'emploi, au vrai emploi. Bien entendu, l'emploi accompagné, c'est un vrai contrat de travail, c'est une rémunération vraiment de salariés. Je signale également que nous avons étudié à la dernière semaine européenne pour l'emploi des personnes handicapées en France, avec nos partenaires de l'AGFIP et aussi les partenaires publics, le FIPHFP, le Fonds interministériel pour les fonctions publiques, l'emploi des femmes. Les femmes en situation de handicap. C'est quelque chose d'extrêmement important parce qu'il ne faut pas que pour les femmes en situation de handicap, il y ait une double peine. Et c'est un sujet qui mériterait d'être approfondi en collectant notamment des données. Voilà. L'accompagnement, bien sûr, c'est un point clé de la stratégie pour l'emploi. Accompagnement, et non pas assistance, accompagnement de personnes qui ont des droits et qui doivent être accompagnées, en effet, comme l'a dit Madame Mancel, de façon personnalisée et individuelle. Enfin, le dernier point, informer et sensibiliser les entreprises et les collectivités publiques. Je crois que c'est très important, bien entendu, que toutes les entreprises soient constamment, on leur explique, on les informe, on se concerte pour voir comment accroître le recours aux personnes en situation de handicap. Ça peut être un quota, comme en France, 6%, ça peut être une autre méthode. Et non, les entreprises et les collectivités publiques, mais ce qui est très important, c'est que le chef d'entreprise soit mobilisé, informé et volontariste. Voilà quelques axes que je propose, bien sûr, à la réflexion de tous, en vous remerciant pour votre attention.
Merci beaucoup, Emmanuel, pour votre contribution très claire et très vaste. Merci beaucoup. I hope that we now can bring in our second speaker from Paris, Monsieur Patrick Gohet. Can the technical unit confirm that we can go to Patrick Gohet? Patrick Gohet, vous êtes là?
Oui, je suis là. Bonjour.
Ah, très bien, très bien. Merci beaucoup, Patrick. Merci pour accepter notre invitation. C'est un grand honneur d'avoir vous avec nous. Merci beaucoup. Vous avez la parole.
Merci beaucoup. On a rencontré des difficultés de connexion et je remercie l'équipe qui m'a aidé à me joindre. Thank you, good morning. Je vais effectivement m'exprimer en français. J'interviens dans le cadre de ce débat comme adjoint du défenseur des droits français en charge de la lutte contre les discriminations et la promotion de l'égalité. Le défenseur des droits, comme dans beaucoup d'autres pays, c'est ce que l'on appelle une autorité administrative indépendante. L'une de ses missions, c'est d'avoir été choisi comme organisme de suivi de la mise en œuvre de la Convention internationale relative aux droits des personnes handicapées. Et pour cela d'ailleurs, nous avons constitué un comité de suivi qui réunit des représentants des associations, des représentants de la société, avec voix consultative, le secrétariat général du comité interministériel du handicap, et nous avons réalisé un rapport que nous avons adressé à l'ONU et qui d'ailleurs devrait être examiné dans le courant de l'été ou au début de l'automne. Le défenseur des droits, il reçoit les saisines de femmes et d'hommes qui s'estiment victimes de difficultés dans l'accès à leurs droits. Sachez qu'en France, il y a 25 critères de discrimination prohibés par la loi. Eh bien, la première cause de saisine du défenseur des droits en France, c'est le handicap. C'est le handicap, ça représente à peu près 25% des saisines qui nous parviennent. C'est donc important. Et autre précision qui ne l'est pas moins, c'est que ces saisines concernent l'emploi. L'accès dans l'emploi, le maintien dans l'emploi, l'évolution de la carrière, l'adaptation du poste de travail, etc. Donc lorsque nous sommes saisis, eh bien, nous travaillons à ce que la personne en situation de handicap qui nous a saisis soit rétablie dans ses droits.
Patrick, je m'excuse. There seems to be a problem with the interpretation. The English interpretation seems to be not clear because the French is so loud. So I give my team a few seconds to try to deal with that. Normally, it should be possible when you go on the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen to make sure that you don't hear the French for those that are listening to English. So let's see whether it works better now. And sorry, Patrick, for having to stop you. But of course, people really want to hear your contribution. And there seems to be a technical problem with the combination of languages. We have French, English, and Croatian, and captioning. So if it's too difficult for those following in English, you also can read the captioning. That gives you the full text of the contribution as well. So Patrick, please continue. Merci beaucoup.
Je continue en français.
Mais oui, mais oui.
Bon, ok. Alors, ce que je voulais... je voulais faire écho aux propos d'Emmanuel Constans. Nous avons réalisé un ouvrage sur la situation des femmes handicapées dans l'emploi. Et effectivement, nous avons constaté combien elles sont victimes d'inégalités de traitement. Je voudrais livrer à la réflexion deux préoccupations. Tout d'abord, ne pas oublier, nous le savons tous autour de cette table fictive, mais ce n'est pas toujours bien compris du reste de la société. Le handicap est multiforme. Ça veut dire que chaque catégorie de handicap appelle des réponses spécifiques qui relèvent des mêmes principes, mais qui s'appliquent de manière spécifique. Handicap intellectuel, moteur, auditif, visuel, psychique. Et n'oublions pas non plus celles et ceux qui connaissent plusieurs formes de handicap. Ensuite, une autre proposition de réflexion, d'échange, c'est que les droits se tiennent tous et que la citoyenne, le citoyen handicapé n'a pas que le droit à l'emploi. Et d'ailleurs, pour avoir droit à l'emploi, il faut que les autres formes de droit soient respectées, soient garanties. Le droit à la santé, le droit à l'éducation, le droit au logement, le droit à la mobilité. Je voudrais faire écho aux propos d'Emmanuel Constans, qui exprimait ce que nous sommes en mesure d'attendre de l'Europe. Et je rejoins cette idée d'une politique prioritaire d'accès à l'emploi dans l'ensemble de l'Union, avec le souci de mettre en place des formes de réponse à cet objectif, des formes de concrétisation de cet objectif. Premier objectif qui doit être prioritaire, tout particulièrement, c'est l'accès à l'emploi en milieu ordinaire. Pour celles et ceux des personnes handicapées qui sont polyhandicapées, profondément handicapées, il n'est pas question de leur nier la possibilité d'occuper un emploi ou d'exercer une activité de type professionnel. C'est la raison pour laquelle d'ailleurs nous avons le milieu adapté de travail, nous avons le milieu protégé de travail. J'insiste sur le fait que la priorité devant être donnée à l'emploi en milieu ordinaire. En France, à l'heure actuelle, dans le cadre du mandat présidentiel en cours et dans le cadre de la législature en cours, il y a toute une politique organisée autour du concept d'inclusion. Et dans le cadre de cette politique, on trouve effectivement la question de l'emploi, il y a une profonde réforme des entreprises adaptées, il y a une priorité donnée à l'emploi en milieu ordinaire et à partir de ce qui avait déjà été réalisé auparavant, une volonté d'aller plus loin, beaucoup plus loin, dans la présence effective de la personne en situation de handicap dans l'emploi ordinaire. Et puisque Emmanuel Constans a pris la parole avant moi, je tiens à saluer le fait que cette évolution, cette volonté politique sont largement dues à l'origine à l'ADAPT, qui a pris l'initiative d'une semaine annuelle de l'emploi à l'automne et d'année en année, on constate un progrès, mais les progrès ne sont jamais suffisants. Et nous avons encore, mais c'est certainement vrai dans l'ensemble de notre Europe, nous avons à réaliser des progrès pour plus de justice et pour plus d'égalité. Voilà mon témoignage. Voilà mon témoignage et la contribution que je voulais apporter sur la base d'une expérience en cours de réalisation à nos échanges et nos débats.
Okay,
merci.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for your contribution. Merci beaucoup. Comme toujours, très clair. Merci beaucoup. I would like to apologize to the participants that struggled with listening to English or Croatian. Sorry for that, but we had to bring in Mr. Gohet through an alternative channel, and that is why the interpretation was going a bit wild. But you can also see it as a sort of a wonderful experience, listening to 3 languages at the same time, and in your mother tongue what you like to hear. I also would like to remind everybody that we are recording this session, this debate, and we will make the recording available afterwards on the EASPD platforms, so that you can go back and check certain statements of the different participants. So now we're gonna go into the Q&A, the question and answer session. I picked up a few, and I'm sure that the different speakers also saw some questions passing by in the chat box or in the Q&A, but I first would like to go to Emmanuelle Grange from the European Commission. Emmanuelle, are you still there? Yes, she is. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Okay, Emmanuelle. Emmanuelle, I have for you 3 questions. You talked about working more actively with social partners. I think that is indeed something very, very important. Many people made questions, came up with questions about that. But how will you do that? How will you facilitate the cooperation with social partners? And questions linked to that is, how will you convince employers? Because whether we want it or not all employers are always very open or really welcoming persons with support needs in their teams and in their staff. One of the questions was, should maybe European quota help? If we could say all employers, you have to employ 3% of your workforce should be persons with support needs, that could be a sort of a solution. Your opinion on these issues, please.
Well, thanks, Luc, and thanks a lot for this question. Very interesting. Well, for the social partners, as you know, we have a regular dialogue with the European social partners, which is managed by another unit in DG Ample. So it means working with them and see how we can meet with the social partners at the EU level before the adoption of the strategy, to sensitize them and to get their feedback also, and then how to be more regularly in meetings with them in the context of these dialogues. How to convince the employers? Good question. I don't have a magic wand, I'm afraid, for that, but. I think it's not only to the European Commission first to convince the employers, it has to be done at national level first. But at the EU level, what we have done in the context of the awareness raising campaign that we have managed all this last month is that we have prepared, and we are still preparing, how could I say, a summary of all the best practices we were informed of during this campaign, and we will publish it. So we hope it will be a tool, and it will help to be a convincing instrument about the way to do and the usefulness of the professional inclusion of persons with disabilities in the employment. So as I said, I cannot say what we are going to do concretely, and so I can certainly not take position on the European quotas, which is always a great idea, and it's already implemented in some member states. But let's not forget that in some member states where they are implemented, some enterprises prefer to pay the fines than to reach the quota. So it's not, as it's by itself, a magic tool either, but it deserves a good examination, I would say. But for me, rather than the constraining aspect is really how to get the employers on board. And that's definitely an area where we all have to progress. Yeah. And we heard about the best practices, and I took a lot of notes from the previous interventions. And really there are lots of things to do there to see how we can do and how it is also in the interest of the employers to proceed in this direction. So be sure that it's a path that we are working on.
Okay, thank you very much, Emmanuelle. Some questions for Caroline, for NPES. Caroline, your views on quota for employers? That was a question asked to you as well. And then secondly, you say we want to mainstream support needs in our general policies and approaches, but isn't there the risk that the attention, the focus on special needs will in a way evaporate because there are so many issues to look at, to deal with, that if there is no special attention given to persons with very specific support needs, it might evaporate and disappear from the agenda. Linked to that, also the question, how do you see the relation, the cooperation with specialized agencies, such as members of EASPD, that provide very specific types of support, supported employment, job carving, training facilities, and so on. So how you see the cooperation with these actors? You have the floor, Caroline.
Thank you. Well, about quota for employers, personally, I think it's a good idea because it definitely works in Belgium. For example, Actiris, we ourselves are very keen to obtain this quota, and we're almost there. We even set up a specific service within the organization to match job seekers with disabilities with job offers, and we contact employers if we think we have a good match to really to give them incentives to employ this person. It's very important to inform employers about quota if they exist. Otherwise, they might not know about them. And it's also important, I think, to match quotas with labor market measures, with incentives, with subsidies, with possibilities to help with workplace adaptations, etc. To the second question about mainstreaming support means, exactly, it's difficult I think to mainstream those support means. Of course, it would be good if Europe took a specific initiative to support national measures, but still every job seeker with a disability is different and needs individual support, but it helps to have those support means because sometimes they can help a whole group of people, and that's why a cooperation with specialized agencies is key, is essential, because the PES cannot do everything themselves. As I said, we set up a specific service within Actiris, but we also work very strongly. We have strong partnerships with other organizations because it's impossible to be an expert in everything. So really, partnerships is key, and PES must learn from one each other on how to create those networks, those partnerships. And that's why our cooperation with EASPD and EUC is very important to help us understand that those partnerships are important.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. In the meantime, and it's always interesting to keep an eye on the chat box. In the meantime, we see that a lively debate on quotas was kickstarted by this question. And I see that many people say that quotas might be a good idea, but maybe more important is to work on a positive message around persons with a disability. They don't bring problems to an employer, they bring solutions. They bring creativity, they bring commitment, like everybody else, like all other employees. It is important to focus on the added value and maybe not purely convincing with quotas and more legal barriers. I also see that there are quite some remarks with regard to technology and how technology can help us to build a more inclusive labor market. If we have time, I might go back to Emmanuel, to the Commission, to learn a bit more about the perspective of the Commission on how technology can help. But first, I would like to go to Emmanuelle, Constans from LADAPT. I have two questions for you, Emmanuelle. First question, and it was brought up by many people in the chat box also. I think that we all agree that employment on the open labor market is what we should aim at. But for some persons, people with high support needs, some form of additional support or protection might be needed. So how do you see the cooperation between those that aim at employment on the open labor market and organizations that provide through social economy activities or others forms of more protective employment? And then secondly, in this COVID crisis, we now see that telework is organized more and more. Should we see telework as a reasonable accommodation to allow people to work from home? Or is there a risk that we, in a way, install a new way to segregate people so that they cannot leave their homes and are, in a way, alienated from the opportunity to build social network and to develop social skills? Emmanuel, please come in. Switch on the microphone, please.
Thank you, Luc, for these questions. On the open labor market, it's true that at LADAPT, as Patrick Gohet said, we insist upon employment in the open labor market for as many people as possible. And of course, it's not always possible everywhere and for any type of disability. But recent experiences in many European countries show that employment and mainly on open labor market is possible for many types of disability, and especially, for instance, the experience that we can see in Spain. It is possible for many types of, and much more than we can think at first in many cases. But of course, it's not possible for all types of handicap. And for this type of disability, other protective systems and a different series of possibilities must be open. And we can provide possibilities, for instance, to go from one system to another one, from a protected employment company, for instance, to an open one later on, if the people want to go to the open market labor system. And I think it's possible really to have a system of coordination and possibilities to progress according to the wishes of the people and to their capacities.
Okay.
And the second question on telework, I think modern technologies, and especially this question of teleworking, or for instance, at LADAPT, we have worked on teletraining. We have been working on teletraining for many years, and these systems of teletraining are very efficient for people with disabilities. And we should increase them massively. And for telework, I think it is one of the ways for reducing unemployment for people with disabilities. It's not the only one, of course, not the only way, but it's a major way. And I think, of course, but for telework, it must not segregate people, as you say. But the problem is the same for the people with persons with disabilities and for people without disabilities. Of course, we need to work together, working teams and so on, but it's not a specific for disability people. So telework, teletraining, really an important solution for people with disabilities.
Okay, thank you very much, Emmanuel, for these very clear answers. As last speaker, I would like to go to Patrick Gohet again, if they can demute him, and for the English and Croatian participants, again, an exercise for you to listen to 3 languages at the same time. Patrick, a question for you. We see that quite often the problem to employ persons with a disability is the negative prejudices that people have. People don't expect persons with a disability to be able to contribute to the success of an enterprise. How can we fight these negative impressions, prejudices that employers might have? That is the first question. The second question to you is, if you, and you're a lobbyist, you're active since so many years in this sector, if you could bring in this one key point in the new disability strategy, what would be it? What would be your most important recommendation to the European Commission to include in the new European disability strategy? Patrick, you have the floor.
Oui, bien. J'espère avoir bien compris les questions qui sont posées. Ce sont 2 questions qui portent sur la stratégie, en quelque sorte.
Oui.
La stratégie d'insertion des personnes en situation de handicap à l'intérieur de notre société, et en particulier dans une société ayant les caractéristiques des sociétés européennes, notamment dans l'emploi. C'est bien ça?
Ouais.
Bon. Je pense que moi, j'ai été secrétaire général d'Inclusion Europe pendant 8 ans, quand j'étais directeur général à l'UNAPI. Et j'avais remarqué que en Europe, grosso modo, nous avons 2 cultures. Nous avons une culture qui est plutôt latine, et puis une culture qui est plutôt anglo-saxonne. Ce ne sont pas des cultures antinomiques, ce sont des cultures complémentaires, et c'est une des richesses de l'Europe. Petit à petit d'ailleurs, l'unité doctrinale s'établit de manière tout à fait positive. Mais dans les pays qui sont plutôt, et ce que je vais indiquer marque profondément la question de l'emploi des personnes en situation de handicap en Europe. Dans les pays qui sont plutôt d'héritage, je vais dire latin, l'idée, c'est que dans une société, il y a des membres de société, de cette société qui ont, qui peuvent, et il y en a d'autres qui ont et qui peuvent moins, voire très difficilement. Et donc, dans ces pays-là, dans ces pays de culture-là, on a beaucoup travaillé, en tout cas dans un premier temps, autour de la réponse spécifique, que ce soit dans l'emploi, que ce soit dans le logement, que ce soit dans l'éducation, etc. On a un héritage là qui est plutôt de la spécificité. Dans d'autres pays, comme les pays scandinaves, les pays plutôt anglo-saxons, etc., l'idée, c'est que chaque individu, handicapé, pas handicapé, âgé, jeune, etc., chaque individu a du potentiel, chaque individu a des capacités, et que par conséquent, Le rôle de la société, c'est de privilégier les réponses qui permettent de vivre, de travailler, d'apprendre, de pratiquer des loisirs, etc., ensemble. Et petit à petit se construit en Europe, ça se confirme en ce qui concerne l'accès aux droits, et notamment l'accès aux droits que j'ai énuméré dans mon propos introductif. Petit à petit, ces deux cultures se rencontrent, s'enrichissent mutuellement et aboutissent à cimentent en quelque sorte, cimentent la politique du handicap dans l'ensemble de l'Europe. Mais moi j'observe à la lumière des saisines qui parviennent chez le défenseur des droits, mais il y a une question que je vous livre, ou plus exactement une opinion que je vous livre. Moi j'ai été directeur général de l'UNAPI, j'ai été délégué interministériel aux personnes handicapées, j'ai présidé le Conseil national consultatif des personnes handicapées. Il y a une chose que nous ne martelons pas suffisamment. Nos concitoyennes et nos concitoyens handicapés, ce sont des personnes à part entière. Et ce qu'on leur apporte, qui est nécessaire comme compensation des difficultés qu'ils rencontrent du fait de leur handicap, c'est toujours du mieux-être pour l'ensemble de la cité. Les exemples sont innombrables, ne serait-ce que la pédagogie adaptée, que des enfants qui ont des difficultés autres que du handicap peuvent solliciter. Je pense que c'est très important. Donc, la personne en situation de handicap, les familles concernées, les professionnels concernés et l'ensemble de la cité doivent intégrer culturellement et politiquement que ce qui est apporté aux personnes en situation de handicap pour qu'elles vivent avec et parmi les autres, c'est du progrès pour l'ensemble de la cité. Ça améliore la vie de l'ensemble de la cité. Ce ne sont pas uniquement des personnes qui ont besoin et à qui on donne, ce sont des personnes qui révèlent pour l'ensemble de la société des besoins, et quand on répond à ces besoins-là, on fait progresser l'ensemble de la société. Je pense qu'on a progressé, mais je pense que ce n'est pas encore suffisant. Et c'est allié très étroitement avec les droits. C'est au fond ce qui ressort de la Convention internationale relative aux droits des personnes handicapées. C'est la mise en œuvre de ce texte qui n'est pas une déclaration d'intention, c'est un texte normatif, c'est un texte générateur de droits. Eh bien, je pense que voilà, dans l'esprit de ta question, c'est vraiment ce que je voulais exprimer comme conviction profonde.
Merci. Merci beaucoup, Patrick, pour votre contribution. Dear colleagues, dear friends, if you were checking the Q&A or the chat box, you would see that there are still many questions coming up. We will try to collect all these questions and come back to you as much as possible. I would like to point out two things at this point before closing this panel. I see that many of you participants are asking about how to contact EASPD to continue the discussion. Well, feel free to visit our website. There you can find contact details. And you're also all invited to join us next week for a webinar that we will organize on how to restart our services after the lockdown, the closing that we had to go through in many countries of our services, how to reopen. That's the topic of our next week, Wednesday's webinar. There also was a question with regard to the words that we use. There was a question with regard to, is it appropriate to use in French le mot handicap? I think that our French colleagues have maybe a positive contribution to that type of question as well. But there is no time to go into a new round of questions and answers at this point. I would like to thank the four panelists for their very, very appreciated positive contribution. Emmanuel Grange, Caroline Mancel, Emmanuel Constans et Patrick Gohet. Merci beaucoup pour votre contribution. I now hand over to the EASPD president, Jim Crow, who will draw a few conclusions from this panel discussion. And after Jim, I will give the floor to Monsieur Xavier Delattre, Directeur Général de LADAPT. Jim, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Luc. Good morning. Bonjour, delegates. We have had the privilege of a very interesting and thought-provoking panel. So I would like to add my thanks to those that Luc has just offered to our colleagues here on the panel this morning. This is the second day of our two-day conference. The conference theme is Road to Employment. And how do I, as President of EASPD, offer some threads to pull our discussions together? Not an easy challenge, and I've been trying to give some thought to that last night and this morning. I'll tell you what I've learned from listening to our experts and seeing some of the discussions on the chat option within the Zoom function, is that even before the tragedy that COVID has brought on us all across the globe, we as service providers have had already faced many challenges. And when I thought to list them, some of them were and still are very fundamental and quite basic in some ways. The first one I put down was to gain proper year-on-year funding for the fundamental services that often as service providers we give to disabled people and to their families. Through EASPD, we have some 17,000 organizations spread across Europe and even beyond. And very often they are providing services which are not properly funded, where they do make a huge difference, but they are so fragile in terms of sustainability. And those challenges have merely intensified through the crisis. The second challenge that we already faced before COVID was how do we respond as a sector, as support providers, to the ambitions and rights that are set out in the UNHCRPD and in related important measures like the Sustainable Development Goals. These pose significant and substantial challenges for us as a sector. We are within those new global initiatives. It's essential that we find ways to give more individualized and person-centered support to the people that we seek to assist. And we have to rise to the challenge of somehow moving people, helping disabled people move from sheltered environments, and I know a couple of our experts this morning have mentioned that, to the open labour market. So those challenges, and that's just four. If I gave it much more thought, I think we could all get very depressed. And I will draw a line there. But COVID clearly is a tragedy that is visited on us and that has provided a profound shock to our societies across the globe. And it's heartening to hear, particularly this morning, from our colleagues in some very important organisations of the priority they still give to disabled people, or seek to give to disabled people, and to the services that assist them. But whilst we can all take some individual and collective comfort from those words, I think that is going to be the challenge, for the most significant challenge for us as we work through this COVID crisis. We have to work with DPOs, disabled people's organisations, to ensure that the voice of the disability sector is not drowned out in the huge challenges that face governments and regional bodies in moving back to a good labour market for most of our citizens. So we're going to have to work doubly hard to make our case. At the beginning of our proceedings this morning, Luc referred to the closed workshop we had with our partners from European Disability Forum, from EPR, from EWS, the European Union of Supported Employment, and from Workability, and with Workability International, and with ENSI, the Network for Social Enterprises. It was our fervent desire not just to be in La Belle France and in beautiful Paris yesterday and today, but also to have gone public with our joint message as a partnership of organisations about employment. We wanted to sign that joint message in Paris today, and we wanted to launch it. Now, as it's just you and me in this conversation, please don't tell anyone, but we do have some strong messages in the joint message. It is mainly addressed to the European Union, and we are arguing and asking that support services that help people with disabilities to gain employment are given full and meaningful support. So I'm heartened by some of the points that were made by Ms. Emmanuelle Grange, and it was very warming to hear certainly the comments also by Caroline and the very real commitment of public employment enterprises and organisations to assist in that process. So we hope going forward that we can play our role in EASPD to ensure that the voice of gaining employment for people with disabilities and maintaining it is strengthened and is heard in the key avenues and key buildings around the greater Europe. So Luc and Xavier will be speaking in a minute, but this is my final opportunity in plenary to offer some thanks. First of all, I must thank LADAPT, our partners. Not just must, but I want to thank LADAPT. We've had a warm cooperation with them. And I think that their initiatives in the past to create a European week, where there's been which has organised intensive interactions between mainstream employers and job seekers to get jobs on the open labour market, has been an inspiration within France and in other countries. I know it has been replicated, and so I think LADAPT has been a pioneer in that initiative, and we're very pleased to be associated with LADAPT in this conference. On a personal level, and with colleagues on the board, I would also wish to note the passing last year of a very dear colleague who was on the board, Henri Pierre, a wonderful personality, tremendous commitment to disabled people, and is sadly missed by friends and I'm sure by colleagues in LADAPT. So we are here in a virtual way in Belfast, and I would like to acknowledge the work of 3 of our members in France who do very important work supporting disabled people. Nexem, UNAPE, and last but not least, Senator Gabriel, who provided our former treasurer, Bernadette Gohet, and we look forward to further collaboration with all of those organizations. I would also like to offer some support, some thanks in conclusion to our staff members, particularly to Rachel, Sydney, and Ilaria for the communications work in making these events happen yesterday and today and tomorrow. To Jeff on the logistics, to Zoe and Renaud, who've provided technical support to you, me, and many of us. And finally, certainly not least, to Tim and to Leah. Thank you for helping make this conference happen. And I'm now pleased to hand back to Luke. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear President Jim, for your summary and for thanking so many people that work very hard to make this conference a success. And it really is a success, I think, because we have reached the participation level that was unthinkable before starting the preparation. So thank you very much for summing up. The last word goes to the director of LADAPT, General Director of LADAPT, Monsieur Xavier Delattre. You have the floor.
Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais effectivement m'associer aux remerciements que Jim a déjà pu prononcer. Merci à tous les contributeurs et à tous les intervenants qui ont animé ces 2 jours. Peut-être en complément de ce que Jim nous a partagé, 4 points qui m'ont marqué durant ces débats. L'importance d'ouvrir le champ vers de nouvelles opportunités. Je crois que c'était un des points majeurs hier des débats, mais aussi des ateliers, des remises de prix, lorsqu'on voit l'expérience de l'emploi accompagné, du job dating, mais aussi la mise en avant d'entreprises qui ont su, de manière très concrète, réconcilier performance et handicap, développement économique et développement humain. Ça, c'est un premier point qui m'a marqué. Je pense qu'il faut qu'on continue à le creuser, ce côté pragmatique. Le deuxième que je vois poindre encore plus aujourd'hui, qui est l'importance des parcours. Comment faire preuve de créativité dans l'accompagnement que nous avons, comment ne pas provoquer de rupture. Et c'est vrai que les points qui ont été rappelés entre l'éducation, l'école, l'entreprise, le logement, la santé, c'est bien tout ça qui fait que la personne handicapée est libre d'avancer, libre de décider, et avec l'importance qui a été soulevée par plusieurs intervenants de quelle sensibilisation, quelle source d'inspiration nous pouvons avoir entre les différents acteurs, quelle source de sécurisation, l'importance peut-être de mettre en avant des rôles modèles, parce qu'il y a aussi des belles réussites, et d'inspirer positivement. C'est un point qui m'a marqué. Le troisième point, c'est, je trouve, dans les discours qui ont été prononcés, c'est de plus en plus l'importance de prendre en compte la parole des personnes handicapées, de les rendre acteurs de leur vie, et peut-être de plus en plus dans nos attitudes, dans nos postures, que ce soit en termes d'État, d'entreprise, d'individus, de bien les considérer comme des sujets de droit et non des sujets de soins, et que voilà, nous portons la même dignité, et il faut être au plus profond de nous-mêmes, en être convaincus et porteurs dans nos gestes et dans les actes que nous posons. Ça, c'était le troisième point. Et puis le dernier, c'est finalement ce qu'on a vécu ensemble. Alors, Jim, on a déjà beaucoup parlé, mais je pense, j'ai pris des points qui ont été, des mots, pardon, qui ont été dits par nos intervenants, le besoin de transversalité, de consultation, de concertation, d'échange d'expériences, de bonnes pratiques. Et je crois vraiment qu'au travers de cette conférence, merci encore à l'EASPD d'avoir permis avec nous de construire cela. C'est ce décloisonnement, je pense, qui est extrêmement important pour notre monde si on veut vraiment être au service et voilà, accompagner ces personnes en situation de handicap. Et je crois que c'est cette confrontation d'idées, cette inspiration mutuelle, ce travail commun qui va nous permettre de sécuriser les parcours personnels et professionnels des personnes handicapées. Ce sera l'objet d'une conférence fin juin, donc au passage, je la relance. Mais c'est surtout ensemble, et je finirai là-dessus, le grand défi que nous avons à relever dans les mois qui viennent avec la crise économique et sociale qui s'annonce, qui va être gigantesque. Et je crois qu'effectivement, il faut faire attention que les personnes porteuses de handicap ne soient pas les premiers qui passent à la trappe dans cette crise, alors qu'au contraire, ça devrait être les premiers que nous soutenons et que nous mettons en avant. En tout cas, un grand merci à vous tous. Merci aussi aux animateurs, parce que je trouve que ce n'est pas facile d'animer les débats et qu'entre cette salle virtuelle mondiale, les intervenants qui sont à distance, un grand merci aussi donc, pour les animateurs et pour tout le back-office derrière qui a travaillé à ce que ça se passe de manière fluide, même quand il y avait des petits stress de mauvaise connexion. Merci pour votre calme et la paix que vous avez distillée au milieu de nous. Merci.
Thank you very much, Xavier. It was a pleasure. It was an honor to work with you, to work with LADAPT on this conference. To the participants, I would say, please stay another minute with me because I have to share some very important information with you, because this is indeed our last plenary session, but we still have quite some opportunities prepared for you, some activities still in the pipeline, so you can learn more about what we are doing with regard to employment of persons with a disability. We have a little delay, so we will start with the workshops. We have 4 workshops. They will start not at 11:45 as initially foreseen, but they will start at 12. So the workshops start at 12 and will last for 1 hour. So from 12 to 1, there are 4 workshops. One is about the organization that did win the award for services, Darfur, Austria, on empowering people in the open labor market. The second workshop, also from a service provider, is from Aura Foundation in Spain, and they will introduce their work on working with on labor market inclusion. For the first workshop, we have captioning and Croatian interpretation. For the second workshop, we have captioning only. Workshop 3 is the winner in the category of businesses, and there we will have the successful inclusive enterprise Grupo Sifu from Spain, and in that workshop we have French and captioning. And last but not least, workshop 4 will focus on persons with autism spectrum disorders in the workforce, and that is a project of Eker and Tohum from Turkey, and there indeed also captioning will be made available. We had a problem yesterday. Some people did not get access to these workshops because we were victims of our own success. Too many people wanted to go into the workshops. We have tripled the capacity of the platforms, so there should be no problem for you to access the different workshops. Yeah, so don't hesitate in joining the different workshops. A few minutes before 12, we start at 12 sharp. The capacity of the platforms is beefed up, so you should have the possibility to log on. That is not the end. At 2 o'clock this afternoon, 2 o'clock Brussels time this afternoon, from 2 to 4, we have our project development workshop. That is a workshop for registered members only. And that in the afternoon, we will start developing new projects ideas to boost innovation in our sector, to boost innovation with regard to the employment of persons with a disability. For the workshop, you should have access via email or via the chat or via the app. for the workshop development, the project development workshop this afternoon. You have to register, otherwise you will not have any access. For the members, don't forget, we have a General Assembly tomorrow morning, and we have the different committee meetings after the General Assembly. Last but not least, dear colleagues, dear friends, I would like to thank Léa Rollin, who is exploring new professional horizons after this event here. So I would now like to hear a sort of a virtual internet online applause for the good work done by Léa, preparing everything for this conference. I also, of course, would like to thank the fantastic team that we have here in Brussels, the EASPD team, and the team of LADAPT that invested so much time and energy. If you like working with EASPD, visit our network. If you like our events and conferences, our next conference is planned in Cork in October, Cork in Ireland, and that will be about cultural participation. So let's hope that we will be able to meet again, to hug each other, to enjoy a drink together in Ireland on the 14th and the 15th of October. So see you all. Enjoy the rest of the activities today and tomorrow, and hopefully we meet again in Cork in the autumn. Thank you very much for being with us, and see you soon. Bye.